Welcome back to Data and Drams. In this episode, I'm joined by Soumya Nair, AVP Business Analytics and Transformation at PCCW Global. Soumya went from an inspiring computer engineer to data transformation leader with a rich history of navigating and shaping complex business landscapes. She has carved an entrepreneurial journey through the technology and transformation sectors, driven by relentless curiosity and a focus on impact over titles. Soumya shares her fascinating career path, starting with a foundation in computer engineering, a deep dive into robotic process automation, and how her MBA ultimately steered her towards leading transformational projects. We take a deep dive into the essence of authentic leadership, the nuances of change management, and the critical value of clarity and adaptability in today's fast-paced business world. We also explore how to effectively connect with colleagues cross-functionally and how Soumya envisions her personal impact story evolving over time. Just a heads up, the audio gremlin that got into Alan's recording somehow found its way into this one as well. However, thankfully, we were able to recover it and the content was just too good. So if we're sounding like we're recording from the bottom of the barrel, that would be why. Thanks for sticking with me. Who knew gremlins like whiskey too? Our dram of choice for this episode was a 12-year-old Redbreast, an iconic single-pot still Irish whiskey. It's crafted using a unique mix of malted and unmalted barley. It's then triple distilled and matured in both bourbon and sherry casks, giving a perfectly balanced profile of smooth, fruity, and toasted flavours. Soumya's approach to leadership is essential for anyone looking to make significant strides in their career and those wanting to make an impact. So if you're ready to dive in, then pull up a chair, pour yourself a drink, and join Soumya and I for Data and Drams.
Thank you so much for joining me, Soumya. We've gone through the whiskey. We'll sip as we go. I wanted to kick off by just learning a little bit more about your career, how you started. Were you always kind of in this space and what that trajectory looked like for you?
Mm-hmm. I think my career is built on more of an intrapreneurial journey.
Okay.
So I think to start with curiosity, I would say I'm a computer engineer by background. I did my computer engineering, got my first job, and I just started exploring on day one, I would say, because they put me in automation. Well, they asked me if I was interested in automation. And I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. Let's try that. And I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. And then when I started with robotic process automation. Half of my career is on robotic process automation. And then I realized that, this can be better. So, and how can automation actually help the business? And then I got really curious about what's happening in the business side.
Mm-hmm.
And then I always wanted to do my MBA. And then when I moved to Australia, I decided, let's do an MBA. So I did my MBA, which moved me more and more into transformational projects. So I was always in a transformational project. I was always in something that is like disrupting either the industry or disrupting a culture within the company. So automation is disruption within the company because most of the things were manual at that point. And so I could see that automation was also about people, strategy, and technology meeting. And then after I did my MBA, I could do more projects, which is more towards the business side. Then I started moving on to more enterprise level projects. Mm-hmm. So that's my career. So I right now work in data-driven transformation. So it's a transformation project for me, which I have been running for past 3 years now.
Oh, wow.
But it's more from a transformation angle that I look at it. So for me, how analytics can actually change the business and help strategy, people, culture, and the customers actually. So that's what my journey is all about. I have had a lot of titles, but at the core of it, I'm always just a curious person trying to understand how technology can help business and people within the organization.
I think that's fantastic. And the way that you go about it in terms of a more entrepreneurial way would help tenfold in some of those conversations, because a lot of guests that I've spoken to that have gone through their technical journey into leadership, it does come back to how do you communicate and understand what the business wants and being able to translate that. And I think coming from that background, you would understand what they're looking for. And I guess being able to translate but interpret their needs, I think that's fantastic.
I think it's very important, right? I feel like when you're trying to serve someone or work with someone, you have to really understand and get in their shoes, understand what you're doing for them and what are they doing for you. So the communication really needs to be very clear. And for that reason, I have found a lot of data projects at the backend office, or a lot of times I go to a lot of Gartner events, and still the topic of discussion is how do we convince the business and how do we make them understand that this is how much money we need, or how do we get that project running. But I find like the gap is that just like if I start talking in Greek right now, which I don't, by the way, like let's just say, Hindi. Let's say I talk in Hindi. A lot of people who are listening to this podcast might not be able to connect with me. So if you're trying to reach wider audience and the audience of relevance, we have to speak in the language that makes sense to them. And I would say that that's what data also needs to do. And that's what automation had to do back then when RPA was a big topic.
Right. Okay. I think we've talked previously about what leadership means to you, but what does authentic leadership mean to you? Can you tell me a little bit more about how you find anyone entering leadership, or what authentic leadership means to you and what people could take away from that?
Sure. Authenticity for me is, I think it's first of all understanding who you are. So having that clarity at your core, first yourself, and then communicating that clarity to the other person. So if you say one thing and you do another thing, that doesn't seem authentic at all. So you have to do what you are preaching. So you definitely should follow that. And authenticity for me is just, I think you would have heard this so many times, like leadership is all about offering clarity. And I strongly believe that. And if you're not authentic, I would say that blurs that clarity.
Yes.
So if you are who you say you are and you do what you say needs to be done and model it, that's authentic leadership for me.
Yeah.
I think that's quite important in today's day and age. And with the Gen Z entering the market, I would say that it's becoming more and more important. And I would say that authenticity is really well regarded. I think you had a second part of the question, which I
wanted to go further a little bit around what influential leadership is, what authentic leadership is, but not just people entering it, but how you then translate that to transformation at scale. Because that, I mean, in your role at the moment, it's obviously quite global. So how do you approach keeping that authenticity while scaling up such large programs of work?
I think that's a great question. I would say clarity is back again fight. Like I think I'm going to say that so many times today. So I would say maybe clarity and curiosity, which is what I said.
Comes back to
how I have built my career almost. So I would say curiosity and consistency. So that, I think 3 C's I would give is clarity, consistency, and curiosity. And if we have that, I would say the cultural boundaries and the global boundaries don't really mean much. They do mean much in terms of tapping into all those talent that we have worldwide. And if you're curious and you respect, I think the curious people should be respectful to others because they're just curious. They're not talking to people. They're talking on people. They're just trying to understand their perspective. And if you are after clarity and you are conveying clarity, people will engage in conversations with you.
Yes.
That's where I think global engagements mostly break down, is when the communication is not really happening between cultures and the teams, and because of not being co-located, right?
Yeah.
I think, and then I would say the last one that I mentioned is consistency, because the change doesn't happen in a day. So you have to be very resilient and just keep bringing the why back to the team and explaining it with clarity, being curious to understand their perspective. And I think the simple formula can actually scale things. Okay. You just have to keep it. You have to believe your vision and just ensure that your mission is having these 3. And you are also ensuring that your team is modeling the same. So you alone cannot do anything, unfortunately.
Well, I don't think anyone can do everything now. Like if you're considering a team as I need to tell them what to do rather than what do we need to do, it's a very different conversation. But I think what you touched on about bringing people along on the journey and in that global sense, as long as you're speaking the same language or trying to communicate with them in the right way, when you're looking at the change management aspect, because a lot of the work that you're doing is quite disruptive to people, how do you broach that in the means of obviously bringing clarity to the teams, but how do you model that behavior and support them when they go through that change?
I think patience is another word that I would use there. Resistance, understanding the resistance. So this is all related to change management. So if there is a resistance, there is a why behind it. And the why is different for different teams and different people. The leaders need to sit down and give people time to explain their whys and then try to understand that what in your why is matching with the why that the organization needs and what the organization needs. And is there a collaboration that's possible? So just sitting down with them. And I'm a fan of, I travel quite a bit as well. And I feel like just having that person in front of you helps a lot.
100%.
Sometimes it's harder with the travel. Everybody cannot travel all the time. They have their own personal things and other restrictions. But if they can, I always say, like, because I have done so many international projects, I say that you should first meet in person if possible.
I completely agree. I find where I can, any new project I'm a part of, I always ask if there is a possibility for me to go up wherever, to meet them in person the very first time. Because I've been a part of, say, data transformations that go for 18 months, not near the 3 years, which would be, I'm so interested to know.
Yeah.
But we were part of quite a few of the 18-month gigs. And for me, that's already going to be a huge change. We know that we're going to be on this journey for a very long time together. I want to make sure that, and in this day and age where a lot of people work remotely, yes, we can connect with anyone at any time, which is great. But I don't think the word connect is the right word. It's we can speak to anyone at any time, but can we actually connect with them?
Oh, I love that.
And I think for me, I try to make an effort to do that where I can. And thankfully, the company I work with, Mantle, they allow me to do that where possible with the client, because it doesn't have to be all the time. I can work remotely 95% of the time. That's fine. But going down in a first instance, just to meet the people on the team, understand what they're doing, where they're currently at, getting to know them on a personal level, and then being able to bring that back, coming back home, working remotely, but I've had that connection with them.
100%.
I think that's so important.
Yeah, I think my first travel was probably back in 2008 or 7. I'm just getting this year wrong, but I think that was my first travel to Germany. And I think I was actually told a lot of things. I was told about like, hey, this is how Germans are, this is how things are. And I was like, really? And then I just went with an open mind and I had a blast. I had such a great time. I made 3 friends there and they were like 20, 25 years older than me. Yeah. I made great friends. I think they still wish me on my birthday and I wish them on theirs because it's so nice.
Yeah, it's not like I can't forget it.
Yeah, I can't forget it. So it was so nice to just build like, I think it was a great experience. And as you said, I connected. So I really connected. I connected to either the culture or the purpose of the project or excitement or curiosity or just aligning on something helps. And sometimes there are misalignments. It's not like it's always a great story to say, right? But the misalignments actually tell you like there's work to be done. And then you have to put in effort. And then you know what the misalignment is. And I agree with you. And then when you travel in person, you know what are the missing gaps? Like what's the missing details? Like, you have to figure it out. Yeah.
I found it really interesting because one of the times I went to Melbourne to meet with the team. We brought everyone over. So we even had some team members from New Zealand come over as well. And I wanted to do a kickoff, like this big transformation. We're going to kick off all together. We're going to smash out what the planning looks like. So we all came in. Now, prior to us meeting, we had multiple connects online, but the culture in the team at the time was very much of, we're going to have our camera off. So there was no cameras on for predominantly the first portion of the project. Whereas our team always had our cameras on. So we made it a point to be like, you need to be seen. I can read body language when I can see you if I'm not in the room. That helps me understand if we're on the right track or not. But we had gone to this kickoff and I think we all arrived the night before. We all went out to dinner. I was walking along the street and because my camera was always on, I forget that people know what I look like. Someone yelled out my name going, Sarah. Turned around, had no idea who that was. Realized from the voice
that it was someone on the client team. Oh my gosh. Had no idea who they were in person because I'd never seen their face. After the kickoff, about a week in, they started putting their cameras on one by one. And it was just so nice to be like, okay, they feel comfortable. We built up a bit of psychological safety with them. They were more, I guess, engaged with what we were doing. And it was all because of that personal connection where we all met together. Because otherwise, I don't think they would have.
I agree so much. And I think that's some investment that the company must make.
Yes.
It's not an option. I think they're saving so much in the later inefficiencies that they might have if people have not really met in person. Like travel might seem like a cost, but it's a capital investment. I think it's an investment that you're doing. Get huge returns out of it. And with a camera alone, that's a great policy. So I have that for most of my team members. And every time I think I had the first person who was the coordinator on the other side for me for an international engagement back then, he had a rule. He would just say, keep your cameras on. So I have kept it on for years now. Yeah, actually ages now. So I don't even remember, like, you know, and that really helped because I remember him checking my expressions and seeing whether I understood what he was trying to say or we had an agreement or not. So I think I learned from the best, I would say. He was a great project coordinator, and with his years of experience and the way he indirectly trained me was amazing. And one of this was just what you said. It's like he would always keep his cameras on as well, and would expect that anyone who joined the meeting keeps it on. Yeah. And I think it's a fair ask.
I think it's a fair ask.
Yeah.
You would do the same if you were in the office.
Yes.
And I understand there are sometimes where you need to go out. Whatever.
Oh, totally.
That's fine. Yeah. It's not that I'm saying, can you please do it while you're on the way to work or whatever it might be. But the ask is that as a delivery manager in my role, when I'm trying to manage a meeting and we might be talking about something quite prickly.
Yeah.
I need to be able to know how people are reacting to the conversation that we're having. And I can't do that by just trying to listen, but I can when there are just small cues of people's body language and how they behave or how they respond to a certain question, if they're even paying attention.
Yeah.
And I think that to me is a really big key skill that a lot of people probably overlook or don't realize that a lot of people in my role do. We're looking for those really fine details of, oh, okay, this may not be hitting the mark, but let's try a different way. Let's try and engage in a different way.
I would bring it back to leadership, actually. One of the major things that you groom as a leader is to listen. And it's to listening to the verbal, nonverbal, and any other cues that you can get. And I would say for a leader to function the best that the leader can, all cues must be available to them at all times. And from their side, they should be listening to those and paying attention. So even if it doesn't matter how many people are in the room, so you should try to make eye contact. You should try to read everyone as much as you can with your abilities and keep honing that ability as you move forward. Because I think that's one leadership trait that I would give to anyone is like, start listening and really listen. Just don't pretend. Yeah, intentional listening and really listening, and don't conclude before you listen, and don't assume what's going to be said.
I gave feedback recently to a colleague of mine who is so switched on and so incredibly good at driving conversation, and in meetings I'm like, oh, he's got it. One bit of feedback that I did give was, because you are so switched on, sometimes you will preempt what people are about to say. But in doing that, you're assuming what they're about to say. And while 99.9% of the time you're probably correct, it's about allowing that person to speak and finish what they are wanting to get across, because then they feel heard. Which was good. He took it on board, which, but it's those little things that make all the difference. And I wanted to ask, when we're looking at those key skills of either a leader or anyone on your team, are there particular skills that you look for in your team members or want them to have, or even just mindsets that you expect?
Oh, I think adaptability, or people say context switching. I call it adaptability. I think that's number one for me. I would say that I think whenever I'm interviewing, this is what I'm looking for. So I give them different scenarios, give them different questions, and just try to see how adaptive they are, how open they are to listening to others' opinions. So open-mindedness is another one where I'm like, okay, they might have done the best job. They would have probably built the best dashboard. But then I'm also looking at like how they're taking my feedback, or if they have their own ideas of improving it further. So the open-mindedness of exploration and creativeness, or just thinking like, oh, there's a possible other solution, or there's just one angle that I might have just missed. I think these are two core skill sets that I always look in my teammates. And then I try to listen and understand their strength, because that's very important. I try to build a team together, which is like a jigsaw puzzle in my mind. So none of them are alike. I keep telling them, you are not alike. You have a great, you have a huge overlap, because you might be a data analyst, or you might be an automation person, or you might be Scrum Master, or you might be a treasure manager, depending on different people have reported to me in different roles. But I would say that I also try to understand their strengths, because some people are good at something that others are not. It can be technical and soft skills. So I try to put together a puzzle, and I'm doing that by understanding my company, first of all, and then understanding what the project is about. So if I know that something needs heavy stakeholder engagement, so somebody in the team is really good at that. And I don't want everybody to be good at that, because that's just like having false expectations, because some people don't like that. They just like to be on their own, and they're very good at doing what they do when they're on their own. So, and then you should not disturb them. I would say that they should play at their strength. So just like building that team. So I then spend rest of the time to see and understand what their strengths are and what makes them excited. So that's very important. So what is their passion? So I think in the interview, I'm doing these 4 things. I think one is definitely testing whether they're open-minded, and then whether they are adaptable. Adaptable, open-minded, I think is the same thing. It's just a cultural fit in my team.
Of course.
And because I run transformational projects, that becomes number 1 criteria. And then understand their strengths, and then understand their passion. Because the strengths and passion matches sometimes it doesn't. So they want to do something different. And I want to enable that for them, because otherwise their spark will die, and I would hate that. So this is what I'm doing when I'm hiring, I would say.
I think that's fantastic. And I feel at least it comes back to curiosity. It's having curiosity. And I always love, and as you say, the spark in people, because as soon as that goes, they're not engaged. They're not having fun. And for me, one of the questions I always ask, so I try and do one-on-ones with anyone in my team, at least fortnightly, just to check in, going, how are you going? Where are you at with the work? But secondary to that, I want to know if you're learning. I want to know if the work that you're doing actually fulfills you, if you're burning out. Are you enjoying the work that you're doing? If you're not enjoying the work that you're doing, okay, let's look at it. Is there a piece of work that we have to do? Okay, we need to do that.
Totally.
But is there any other piece of work within what we're doing that interests you, that you might like to learn or shadow that someone else is doing? Is there anything outside of what we're doing that I could keep my eye open to make sure that you're getting, say, the ability to do a certification, or, hey, there's a conference on coming up. Yes, you could take the day to do that. Just trying to find different things that they can do, because otherwise, if they just feel like they're doing the same thing day in and day out, that's a very easy way to lose someone.
Definitely. But I also have realized that with my experience, some people's strength is exactly that. They are good at doing exactly the same thing, and they don't want to be disturbed.
Yes.
And they're amazing at it. Trust me. And I find that person as my partner or my complement, because I'm not so good at it. So I'm someone who will pick up a transformation project and run with it. I have a vision in my mind. I want to deliver something big for the company. I want to move a strategic needle. But at the same time, I do need someone in my team who keeps the things running.
Oh, it's so you need someone who can grind.
And maybe that's their spark.
Yes.
That's their spark, because they like keeping everything in order, and just want to ensure that there's steady deployment and delivery happening all the time. And these people are amazing as well. So I think I learned this with experience, that they are also required, and definitely they are my partners, because I'm not so good at it, unfortunately.
I feel like you need those people.
Yeah.
You absolutely need those people. But it comes back to when you're thinking about those four different things of when you're interviewing someone to come onto your team. It's what are they passionate about? What are their strengths? And if they are passionate about, hey, I just want to do my job, do it well, and I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
That's absolutely okay. And I need you, number one, because you are going to do the job that I can't.
Yes, totally. I think, but it depends on, as you said, like, I think it's just the kind of project you're doing.
Yes.
Because sometimes such people, as you rightly mentioned, in a project, things are shifting a lot. They would lose their spark. So it is also matching the environment to them as well. So you're right. Like in some cases,
Oh no, this one's not.
So I think it's contextual. Let's say that. Yeah, it's contextual. But just keeping an open mind as leaders and on the other side of the hiring table, I would say it would help.
I think that's great. And when we're talking about, I guess, the transformational aspect of the work, so coming back into the project space, I know that you do quite a lot of enterprise scaled transformations. When you're looking at, well, number one, building the team, once you've got your team, how does the data drive some of the strategic decisions that you make? Is it a way to inform you, or do you use data to kind of search for what you need?
Oh, that's a very interesting question, because you put data there to be used to team building, isn't it? Oh, wow, that's a very nice question. I would say the data informs,
Okay.
but it is mostly supplemented with my experience and experience of the other people. So I would say data is a driver, like it's a driver or it's a supplement, but let's put it the other way. I would say human or leaders are always the drivers.
Okay.
Yeah, and the data is informing you. So if there's like a project going on and then you're finding like the operational efficiency is going down, then you would want someone who is good at that, who is good at getting back the operational efficiency back on track. Or if you are like, depends on what project you're doing. It's about, if it's about building your own team, I will use those kind of metrics like operational efficiency, or how we had this benchmark, or we had this goal, or we had the OKR. Are we hitting that? If you're not hitting that, why didn't we hit it? So do an RCA and then find which skill sets, or who in the team was either responsible for it and need some support, or you just don't have the right talent. The other part to it would be, I would say that when your projects are delivering on the strategic objectives of the enterprise, whether they are actually meeting the requirements of what is required at the enterprise, that I think is a more difficult one to answer, because those metrics are coming from different departments. So it actually opens up more to do with the whole organization, how you should be doing resourcing, planning, and strategic team building. So it's a wider one.
I've got a few questions off the back of that.
Yes.
So when we're talking about metrics, as you mentioned, it's coming from different domains.
Yes.
Where you're looking at, say, an enterprise transformation, you're looking to scale, what metrics are you looking for to be able to drive that, or at least be able to translate that to an executive team to go, how are we tracking, or how do we get there? So I guess it's twofold.
Yeah, okay. I think there are, multiple. We have to break this down. So I would segment it. There are multiple parts to this. So one is that you are delivering a project, which is by analytics, data analytics, AI, anything, that is going to help move the strategic levers of the company. So how much is it costing us to build something? Or how much is it costing us to deliver this product to the customer? And then you're looking at how much revenue is this generating, the stream generating. So how much value are these products bringing us? Or how much, and then picking up of some of those customer analytics, which is like customer lifetime value, understanding the customer growth within the different regions, because we are a global company. So we sell in different companies, different countries, 2 different companies in different countries. But I would say that then those become our guide onto which kind of metrics are going to help the organization to move the needle. So what kind of analytics is going to help? What are the issues with the data? Because sometimes the data is showing a pattern, but we cannot judge that by ourselves. So what we do is bring cross-functional team in. So we'll get the sales, pre-sales, marketing, operational team, delivery support team, depends on what the topic is, and then try to have a conversation with them on the narrative that the data is bringing to us and how that narrative helps us. Or if there's a data quality issue rather, and the narrative is wrong than what they're actually seeing in the field. So it's different aspects to what,
And it's interesting. I always find it quite interesting when you're thrown on a project like that and you're there to implement a thing. You're there to transform a thing. My question, I guess, is data tells you what, it doesn't tell you why.
Yes.
And what you mentioned, you really have to go in deep and understand what's happening. So one, it'd be interesting to know when you're trying to understand the why, how you approach that. But it's also when you're going to C-suite to talk about revenue, look at different strategies, are they saying, this is what we want to know, go and seek the data so we can return and understand what's happening there? Or is it they get data and then try and translate what that is actually representing?
I think both. So I would say both, because we need to know from the enterprise strategy what is the top 5 or 3 things that the organization is looking for in the next 1 year. And let's say if it's about like reducing the operation costs, then you are building metrics or you're building dashboards around OPEX and trying to dive deeper into where we can reduce the expenses. And then when that's that looks high, then we have to understand, okay, so we have to reduce the expenses, but why do we have that expense right now sitting at where it is? And if we cut down on that, does it affect something else? So what's the data correlation between like making a decision? So when it comes to that stage, it's not then like, bring me that. It's more like, this is what the data is telling me. I think that this is way too high. Why is this high? And then having that conversation on like, what can we do to control it? Or is it something that we shouldn't control because the ROI is too high? Then we start connecting that with other metrics, like how much revenue is this bringing? Does this have like a future potential? So is this going to help us scale 10x? And if that's an expense that's going to help us scale 10x, we should keep investing in that. We cannot then let that department or that area of expense bucket just dry out. So we have to keep investing in that. So I would say that with the C-level, I think how you have a conversation is mostly around revenue, cost, risk, and customer. So you need to really have your narratives, your data, your analytics, your proposals, your conversations around these because they are responsible to drive those. And when they're looking at the risk, they should also be able to see an opportunity or a threat. That's what data is building. And I feel like it's a collaboration. So the order can come from anywhere. It can come from the bottom, upside. I don't honestly care where. Any direction, I would say. But once it is there, then when we start working on it, the project that should happen in a company should be collaborative. It's a collaborative effort. It's not like I want this, do this by this time, and that's the deadline. That sounds great for a starting point, but it's not the end. So if somebody's saying to me that that's the end of the story, you delivered this and we're good, I would say that we are not really leveraging the power of analytics or transformation or people or anything.
Yeah, right. I think that's great. It's very interesting for me because I love the business side of things as well. And what you mentioned there about, risk, revenue, strategy. I read a book recently by Michelle Redfern, and she was talking about the 3 areas that a lot of people lack when getting into leadership and or guess learning, especially for women, learning about these particular things. Because I think a lot of time, if we're taught how to get into leadership, it's always about soft skills and, your communication and all that. And that's absolutely 100% something that you need to learn and grow in. But the other 3 are business, strategic, and financial acumen. And what you mentioned before, it's that's really what they're looking for in those C-suite meetings. So I'm keen to understand for yourself, have you grown that muscle in being able to communicate to that level of C-suite and be able to translate, hey, this is what the data is, this is what it's saying, this is what it means for you, and here's what we're going to do about it? How do you approach those conversations from a technical to a business lens?
I would bring back I think the first question that you opened with, it was curiosity. I remember in my first job, I used to read books like library. I think I love libraries. Well, I think that's just something about it. And it's simple that where I used to go and read books on. So I was doing automation, and just as I told you, that was my first thing. I would read books on crisis management, and then Toyota's way, and then all these different things, because I was so fascinated by Infosys. Was my first company. It was a consulting company. So we used to change clients one after the other. My first client was A1, which was direct marketing. And then I to Walmart, and in Walmart I had different. So I first started working with US-based projects most of the times. And then I was very curious when I used to talk to business analysts and they're saying something. So I almost became an analyst. So you would see, like in my titles, I carry analyst a lot. So in that, when I was an analyst, I was trying to understand the business, because I'm like, well, why am I delivering this? And what difference is this going to make? So that curiosity actually helped me build that muscle early on. And then I made that decision after 3 years into the industry that I was like, I'm going to do my MBA. I didn't do it until I was 10 years in the industry, I think, something like that. But I just had that. I planted the seed. Yeah, I planted the seed. And then I would sit with my managers, senior managers, delivery managers, anybody I get, actually. And I have spent time understanding Siemens model of business. Like, this is what I used to talk to my managers about. So how's the department working with this department? Like, it has,
oh yeah, please.
I think I was blessed. I think everybody entertained my questions. And I feel like leaders do. The true leaders would. So I think you had to find your true leaders. So I think I was good at that probably. And I knew when I had to shut up. Nobody's entertaining easy. So, but I think I had good leaders, good managers, and I would talk to them for hours to just understand what. And then I finally did my MBA from University of Queensland. It was ranked as the 16th in world when I joined, yes. And it has amazing cohort. And I think MBA was, it was nothing I had to do to just build that muscle. And now I can speak to any department, any function of the business with confidence, because I know exactly what they're doing and how it's going to affect the P&L statement. So for me, translating the narrative and having that conversation with them is easier. And then my own curiosity, I still read books. I am very curious to know what a pre-sales person is doing. Or like I spend a lot of time with someone who runs the voice business just to understand how they do AR netting and like accounts receivable and then the netting. And I'm like, and I'm talking to finance and just sitting and understanding and learning. So I would say someone who wants to build this muscle needs to be, first of all, be open. And technical is, I would say that if you're good at your technical stuff, then you don't need to hone it further. Yes. Let's just keep it there. And then hone the other muscles by just being curious and talking to different departments, because you don't have to go and do an MBA all the time. You can just start somewhere small and somewhere more relevant, because MBA offers you too much. And sometimes it's not really about the project that you are doing. So I also did one more thing, is that every time I did an MBA, I tried to do some similar projects in my company. So that was very annoying. I was like, I'll go.
Oh, you're curious.
Yeah. I would just go to some senior and say, so I want to do this. I want to build your innovation strategy. I had a debate with a chief marketing officer. Honestly, I did. And I told them, like, you're looking at this whole thing wrong, because I don't know why. I did my economics class recently, and I found that, okay, if you are trying to sell in a cloud market, your supply and demand curve is completely different, because the suppliers are different. The people who are demanding your softwares are different. But they were actually building the whole thing, I felt, more from an on-premise perspective. So on-premise and cloud is different. Your competitors are different. The number of days, actually, the competitors need to build a cloud application is very less. It's not like on-premise. So I think I went and had this conversation, and I'm like, this whole thing is not good.
I can imagine you marching into the office and be like, I have something to say. Yeah, I do.
I think I said I was annoying, but I think I'm very respectful. So I think people do have the conversation with me, and they offer me their perspective.
Yeah.
And sometimes they agree, sometimes they completely disagree, and that's fair. There might be something that they know that I don't know, or maybe they're not at the stage where they're open to listening to what I have to say. And they might be just thinking, well, I don't know anything, and who are you? Which is also fair. That's all of these scenarios happens, and it happens with every leader, I would say. But I think for me, it was just like, I have a piece to say, and I have studied this, and I did my best. So either I'm learning someone from that person. If they offered correction, they might just say, like, Soumya, this is what, it's not how it is. And many times this has happened in my life as well. It's like I have tried to do some really big project, underestimated the complexity like anything, because I always want to change the whole company or the whole world, probably one day. So I would just I'll just start. This is what I want to do. So this is where I see the problem. And this is where I think is the solution. And this is my vision. And that's it. That's why I call myself an entrepreneur. I'm really like that. So if I'm not in such projects, I'm not at my best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I think I started my career in a space where we supported a lot of small businesses and entrepreneurship. And I saw a lot of that where there were people who were in corporate jobs while also having a bit of a side hustle.
Mm-hmm.
And those people had that kind of skill, their growth mindset of, I want to do things a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
So I always found that having that, it always supported that growth within the company, just because you're wanting to do things a bit different, or you're wanting to grow, or you've got curiosity around how things can be different. I think one of the skills that I see that you have, and especially throughout your career, which I think is very admirable, and a lot of people would be like, that's so brave, going up to anyone and asking, it's going to ask someone why. Why are we doing this? Could we be doing it better? And yeah, some people might be like, hold your horses, I think I know what I'm doing. And that's fine. But even just broaching the conversation, because I think it'd be really good for anyone in a team, say if we're delivering a project, why? Why are we doing it this way? Why have they asked to do it this way? Have they considered this? I've got some recommendations. Okay, then tell me and we'll go and have the conversation with someone. And a lot of the time, people don't ask that because they're just given a set of instructions and they do the thing, which is fine. But I think that skill of entrepreneurship is really valuable to have, especially when you're getting into leadership, because you are understanding the why behind some of these strategic decisions and also questioning them. Questioning, why would you be doing it that way? Have you considered this? Can I actually give you a recommendation? I think it's a great thing to grow and massage, but also broaching people who, well, I'll tell it a different way. When I was starting in that role of that kind of entrepreneurship space, I had a boss who was very much a mentor for me. And a lot of, I guess, the way that I approach work now is been attributed to her. So she was just someone who would walk into a room who didn't care who was there. And she would ask them a question, or she would say, I've got something to say, I'm going to say it. And I always saw that, like, that's so-and-so, or, oh, God, that's so-and-so. She didn't care because she was like, everyone's on an even scale. I have something to say. I want them to hear it and we'll have a discussion. And I always saw that to be like, oh, this is why I don't see an issue with approaching C-suite to ask them the question, or approach someone who might be leading a project to be like, hey, why are you doing it this way? Is there something I can learn from? And I think that's something everyone should kind of look at and, I guess, flex that muscle a bit sometimes. It can be a little bit scary because, you think these people are going to bite. They're not. Good leaders won't. They'll give you the time, and they want to give you the time. They want to talk about it. People who aren't leaders won't give that time, and that's okay. And that's, you'll find those people.
Yes, you would. And I think just what we were talking about just before we started, right? You will find those people, and then you can just say thank you and just leave the room and then find another person, because there are a lot of good leaders. As much as I think it's not, okay, I'm digressing a little, but I would say that it's all the organizations to build those leaders rightfully.
I agree.
So I think they have to invest, and they have to do, like, I don't know, buddy programs, mentorships, and it should not be upon the leader to go and, like, the budding leader, I would say, to go and find a mentor. That opportunity should be available to them. And there are so many good courses where they, like, hands-on experiences and things like that. I was blessed to be a part of a few things that Siemens was running at that time. I went and found my mentors. I annoy my mentors too. And that's what I'm just like, I'm trying to get time with them because they're so amazing and I can learn so much from them. I would but say that the organizations need to build this. Where the organizations are failing today and why transformation is becoming such a big headache is because you don't have those kind of leaders sometimes nurtured in an organization.
Yeah.
Because if you're nurturing a leaders in your organization, investing in that, then you wouldn't have the problem of transformation becoming a headache because they are into it. The moment you tell them like, hey, this is going to make us more money and it's going to just bring us like 10% more revenue, or it's just going to make this customer so happy that the NPS scoring is going to go from 7 to a 9. Why would someone deny that if that's you have true leaders actually sitting on the other side? I would say no one would. But because then the structure of an organization or the symbolism that what is rewarded in an organization is not those kind of behaviors, that we then have this conversation. Oh, transformation is a big project. There's a change management thing. There's this and there's that. And I go through all of this as well.
Yeah.
But I would say that we have to fix it at the root cause and not really the symptoms. Yeah.
I agree. And coming back to mentorship, because for me, I always broach mentorship with, well, what am I looking to get out of that relationship? And coming back to quite a lot of people feel uncomfortable with reaching out to leadership. Again, it's a muscle that you can grow. For me, I just don't care. I'm like, I want to learn from you. I have something to say.
I would say, I can give out of the tip. I would say your why needs to be so strong that nothing comes in your way.
Yes.
So like, if I want to learn a skill set or I want to understand about an industry or a research that's happening, let's say I was behind this neurodiversity research, like anything. So I would just like anyone whom I find in a networking event or anywhere, I'm just asking questions and I'm like, because I think my why is stronger than thinking about how the person is going to react. My why is very strong because I want to help all those people who are neurodivergent and who are joining my team. And I just don't want them to have a bad day in an office. And I want them to feel supported. And if I want to do that, I need to somehow learn. And if I have to learn, I need to rely on someone or something. And that something and someone is my responsibility to find. And when I carry that weight of that responsibility for my why and what I want to do, I think everything else is details. It doesn't matter.
And maybe that it is, for me, my why is always deeper than what I could potentially feel or be embarrassed by. Because honestly, the worst that someone can say is no.
Yes.
Oh, well. And for me, so within the company I'm in now, we have this program that's like a people guide. So anyone can put their hand up for being a people guide. And it's basically the same thing as mentorship or coaching. And you can pick anyone in the company. Now, I've always looked to go, okay, well, I could either learn my role a little bit better, or I could learn something completely different. And what do they do in C-suite? What does it look like to do pre-sales? What does it look like to communicate to a stakeholder or have those kind of C-suite conversations? So whenever I looked for a people guide, I always knocked on the door of C-suite. Any directors, partners, whoever it might be, I was like, excuse me, do you have a moment? And every single one of my mentors has been in that space. Because for me, I can easily talk to another colleague who may be a few roles ahead of me, and that's fine. And there's a time and a space for me to learn how to grow in the role I'm in now. But I'm interested in business. I'm interested in the conversations they're having. I'm interested in why we've done this certain thing with the company. Those are the conversations that I want to know. So I just kind of weaseled my way. And it was like, I want to speak to these people.
Yeah, and I think that's where you're also building. I think you asked to open with authentic leadership, right? That is also your authenticity towards what you want to really do. And relaying that message out loud to anybody who's listening and just staying true to that and not acting differently than what you really want to do. And your why and who you are unique. And nobody's there. Nobody should judge that. And I think nobody should judge anyone in general. But I think that it's your path. You should work on that. And everyone has their own path and their own journey. So I did my leadership course, luckily, in the Harvard University. So, amazing campus. I just went to Harvard. I just do that, isn't it? Anyway, so I was trying to say is that when I was sitting in that, that was a tough time for me, actually, because the professor, I'm still connected to him, John Paul. He's amazing, obviously. And then he was talking about authenticity. I think that's something I locked into that. And then I was like, because I had a time where I was like questioning things. And I was like, should I be a certain way and talk a certain way so that I can be perceived a certain way? So these are questions that I would accept that I had. And then I was like, I went to this leadership course and he started talking about authentic leadership, authenticity and this and that. And then you should be always like, be the same. And I had like a couple of calls with him after. All right. Well, I had a couple of calls with him after the course ended as well. And I think authenticity, I wanted to really understand what it means. So I wrote my paper on authenticity. I think everything was about authenticity. And I just did like a full circle of what authenticity means. At the end of the day, I just figured out it's just knowing your why and your core and being able to wear that proudly and also course correct though. I think sometimes you are not really in the right direction. Authenticity doesn't mean that here I am, there you go, deal with me. But that's not true. You have to really understand who you are, but be respectful to others and not just like be, I think, dumb about it. I think you have to be smart about it. Yeah. You have to also present the new you every time because I'm not going to be sounding the same, I hope, in 5 years because I have certain things that I want to learn and groom and get better at. So I think this is me today, but after 5 years, I should be allowed to be who I am at that point in time, right? So I think that is authenticity and it takes a lot of courage to walk that path. Because I told you, right, I had these questions in my mind. It's like, do I need to be a certain person or do I need to do certain things? My answer luckily was no. Yeah, but glad. I could have just gone in that spiral. But I just didn't. That's good that I had that. I could connect to my core back again. But there are times when, you don't get what you really need and you have projects which are delayed or you don't get a title or you don't get the validation and you're looking for external validation. Sometimes the compass can go external, but I think as long as your core is strong, it will bring you back.
Yeah, 100%. And I've got a few questions off the back of that, but the main one is coming back to that core. But I think some people can find themselves drifting because they will compare themselves to other people and they won't really understand maybe why they're floating in a certain direction because something may not be intrinsic to them. You have to keep coming back to asking yourself why. Why are you potentially getting jealous of this person in a different role? Or why is it that you're finding yourself in these projects that you're not really enjoying? Revisiting that all the time, because as you said, like you are going to change every year, 5 years, whatever that might be, but you need to keep coming back and questioning yourself as well and being curious about what is it that I want to do and where do I want to go and why am I being perceived a certain way? How do I want to be perceived? But I do want to ask the question as well, like in that space and especially getting into that leadership space, did you find yourself feeling like you had to be perceived a certain way? Was that kind of something internal that you were trying to work out?
I don't think so. Luckily, I didn't have too much of that because of how I said, like my career is built on just being myself and just going for the projects that I always wanted to. So I could not have a lot of how I'm perceived in my mind. But I would say I moved countries and I came to Australia and then I also enrolled for MBA within 6 months of coming to this country. Wow. Yeah, that was a huge financial load and everything else. Yeah. I didn't even know how I'll survive in a new country, but I decided to do my MBA anyways. So I think with all of that, I would say that there were times when everything was just way too much. And you are also being perceived in a new market. And the cohort is new. Every time you're doing assignments, there are new topics. You're settling down country financials. You don't really know. There are periods where you will be like, can this be faster? Is there something I could do differently that could have just made this faster for me? So I think those were the questions I asked myself. So I'm always looking for more efficient paths, even for myself or the company. I think it came more from that place than actually worrying about exactly what the other person thinks and like, can this be faster? And then I concluded with like, no, this is my path and it's going to have its own timeline. It's going to have its own journey. It's going to have its own fails. I would say fails as well. Yeah. Failures or pivots. Let's say pivots. And I also realized that I look back at something that I think was not appropriate or the timeline was not appropriate. I found like if I had the knowledge how it would look like 4 years down hindsight, yeah, thank you for the word. It would look like it was perfect. It's perfect. It was perfect timing for whatever happened, the way it happened, And then I think, so it was more that than actually, the other way around. This is finding it's not the most efficient path. But then I realized that there is no such path called as efficient path. Yeah.
No, because I think that whatever way that you got here was right at the time. Because I always find looking back, because I'm someone who didn't go to uni. I did open foundation for like 2 weeks. I thought this is not it. So, I barely graduated high school. And I did what they call a gap year to find myself. My gap year was like 5 years because I just kept traveling. I worked multiple jobs at a time to get there. But I don't ever regret doing that because I know that in my own time, I got to where I am now because of those experiences. Some of them were terrible experiences, but I learned very quickly from them. And I always wonder, because I was meant to go to ADFA. I was meant to do it was a business and logistics degree.
Oh, interesting.
At ADFA.
Yeah.
Originally, I was going to be an aeronautical engineer, but the career advisor said that I was not smart enough. So then I ended up going, okay, I'll prove you wrong, and then did double the homework of math, and I still couldn't get there. I was like, oh, fair enough. Fair enough. It's probably not for me.
Yeah.
So my second choice was something that my mum had recommended was logistics in the Air Force. So I was like, okay. So I chose all of my subjects for that, and then barely scraping through high school. The idea was for me to go to ADFA and do that degree. Didn't get there. Was meant to go into the Air Force. Got rejected from the Air Force because I had iron tablets. It was a whole thing. I kind of was like, that's my out. That's my out to figure myself out. Took me a very long time to get there. But I don't think that if I had have gone in that direction, I would be where I am now and know what I know now and have matured in the way that I have. Because in hindsight, yes, there are things that I would have liked to do differently, but I don't think I really would have changed them.
Yes. I think sometimes it takes that, like, the moments are there. Like, I don't know, well, I had it, like, the moments of questioning things. But I feel if your core is strong enough, you will come back and you will keep walking on the path, the crazy path that you make for yourself, because
it is a crazy path.
It's my resume, or like this goes like, I have done so many things and I have removed all my technical skill sets because people were getting confused. I have so much of it, actually. So I removed them because I was like, this is confusing people. It doesn't confuse me because I can have a great conversation with my technical teams. But I removed it because I was like, people are getting too confused with my resume now.
I do have to caveat with, I remember the first few times that we met and you're like, oh yeah, no, I've done this certification. Oh yeah, no, I've done that as well. I was like, what have you done? What do you mean? And it's nowhere on your LinkedIn, but all of a sudden we will pull out all these papers and you'll be like, oh no, I did do that in 2011 actually. And you're like, so
honestly, that's how it is actually. So I have a team member who says that you have a lot of knowledge and you know a lot about everything. And then I'm like, yeah, we must spend that much time. So when I pick up a topic, I'm very curious. As I said, it's coming from curiosity. It's not trying to prove anything to anyone, but it's just like, I'm so curious. And I'm like, what is this topic all about? I also wanted to do a CFA, by the way. So, but I think, of course I did, right? But then one of my mentors went and said, Soumya, let's not do that. I was like, great idea. I don't have the time for it.
You are correct.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing to say because I know a lot of people getting into the industry or even who are and kind of wanting to look into leadership, they do feel the pull to have to do certain certifications or, they have to enroll in certain things just to be kind of seen, or their resume needs to be full in a certain way to be recognized. But coming back to your why, I think that a lot of people really should understand what that is and what are they actually trying to get out of that certification or course. Because for you, it was curiosity. It was, hey, this thing is interesting. I want to learn a little bit more so I can flex my skills a little bit more and try and excel in that space. It wasn't because you felt you needed to tick a box.
Well, never did a certification for that. Honestly, the thing that you don't know that I don't have on my resume is a change management certificate. I don't have a change management certificate. Exactly. That's what I do. So I think I have practical, pragmatic experience on that. And what I have is a bunch of frameworks and other things that people recommended, and I've done some safe certifications here and there for a lead portfolio manager, for a product manager, for a SPC, which rolls out. Like I have all, like you said, I have a lot of certificates.
Sweet.
Yeah, I've got the suite. But I think that I feel like even MBA, I would say that would give you the theoretical knowledge.
Mhm.
You have to apply it. So if you're not applying it, forget it. It's of no use. Like it's as good as, I don't know what.
Well, I completely agree. I actually gratefully was invited to speak at one of the MBA classes in Newcastle many years ago. And it was interesting. It felt good for me because I was like, I'm in front of these MBA classes where I barely scoot through. I was like, I'm a dropout out of an MBA class. So it was a very proud moment for me to be like, wow, I've grown enough to be able to be invited to speak here. But I remember asking them the question was, okay, once you graduate your MBA, you've got this shiny new degree. What are you going to do with it? And what are you going to do now? Because they were kind of looking at the finish line of, I have my MBA, I can go do things with it. Rather than looking at it going, well, what are you learning right now that you can apply right now before you finish? And also the network you have that you're building within your MBA, because this is the time to do it, is the alumni within the MBA network. It's huge. That to me would be worth even more so than the theory that you learn. But you need to apply it then and there, not at the end.
Oh, 100%. I dropped out of all my courses during COVID because everything was online and there was no discussions with the cohort. And I was like, okay, this is not working because you want to learn what's happening in their industries.
Yeah.
And you really want to know what are their challenges, because when you're sitting on a round table with them, they're actually talking about, yeah, I applied this, but this did not work. So I went there. Or how do I do this? And then we try to solve the problem. So all these discussions are gold because, as you said, like they actually make you think about what are you going to do with this knowledge? And even if that was a conversation which briefly someone talked about, like talking to an HR team. And
1 second.
yeah, we'll get there. So it's about like talking to an HR team, but that HR, that might not be your project at that time, but because you have had that conversation, you can, when you are doing it and you just go, hey, John, you were talking about this. Can we just catch up for a coffee? As you said, that is gold, right? Like, to talk to someone who has done it before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what is happening in networking. It's like you have someone who can actually give you unfiltered advice and listen to you vent as well at the same time. That's a perk, I would say. But I think that's quite important to what you get out of an MBA.
I completely agree. I find that networking a lot of the time can be seen as a very taboo thing. And I know networking is not for everyone, but I would challenge people to think about, hey, networking can just be a coffee with someone.
Yes.
And that can be gold. Or internally at work, hey, do you have time for a virtual catch up?
Yeah.
15 minutes.
Yes.
Put it in my diary. And there may be something out of that you get where it's just connecting with someone you haven't before, or telling them something that you're looking for, and they may have a connection over here. They go, oh, is that a project you're wanting to be on? I'm actually going on that recently. You never know.
That's gold again, I would say, because you were asking me about transforming at scale, right?
Yes.
Scale needs network effects, we call them. So when you have a huge network, so I'm well connected.
Wow.
And when you have in the company, so that when you're well connected and you hear something coming and you're like, hey, I have to validate this. And that validation or just a sense check of things should be just a flip of a message. Like I just go Slack message, this is happening. What do you think? Can we catch up for a coffee? Can we do like a Zoom? What do you think about it? Can I have 5 minutes? Like that's it. So I think that's very critical because leaders have to work together.
Mm-hmm.
So even if it's by default organized by the organization structure or we are working in silos because of the structure,
Yes.
Doesn't matter. If you have to do transformation, you have to be well connected, and that's network and network effects. You can produce it only when what you said is true.
For me, in any transformation I've been a part of, it doesn't matter what technical project you're implementing, it doesn't matter what it is. If you don't do internal PR or have some type of showcase or connect with someone
100%.
or bring all leaders together in different domains to go, this is happening, you will build a house that no one's going to come and live in.
That reminds me of, so with the data-driven transformation, I ran one workshop with the C-suite there because we had to really come front to front, face to face with some of the challenges and where we are heading that conversation. So that is literally bringing everyone in one room who are responsible for different KPIs, different departments. And if the leaders care enough, they will speak up and they will either agree with you or disagree with you, but they will set the path right. So it's so powerful.
It needs to be done. And I see it happen time and time again where people wait until the end. So recently I went through with one of our security guys who was on a delivery leader on a project, and he showed me the timeline. And I was like, why is your implementation all the way to here, and then your organizational management is right at the end? Why is that at the end? Is that, because they asked to say, like, we need to get everyone together at the end just to make sure they know what was done? And I was like, okay, maybe let's put that at the start, or at least in the middle, or multiple touch points, because I've been in so many situations where you'll build something assuming that everyone's on the same page, and you get to the end and they go, what is this?
Yeah,
I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, agreed. And that's the very reason I am a fan of Agile or Lean. Not because of the number of ceremonies they dictate, but it's because people hate that and they will just
too many meetings.
Yeah, too many meetings and too many. I agree, actually. But I think what it does is that it keeps the cycle short. And when I started in the industry, it was called as iterative development, like it's okay. But I think that's exactly it. So you have to iterate. That means you have to always demonstrate what you're doing and get your stakeholders' input. And it's co-creation. I think that's the word. So co-creation, it's not, hey, as you asked me, so how does it happen? It happens like they give you the order, you develop something, and then you come. So I think I found that question very interesting because I think my mind never thinks like that. I think it's just like, it's a no for me. Like if you are expecting me to do something, so you have just provided me with like a list of things to do and I'll go and do it and come back to you. Looking at the wrong person, first of all. It just doesn't.
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, not going to do it. And that's why I like the Lean Agile approaches, because that kind of gives the whole organization something, a ceremony or something where everybody's meeting. Otherwise, when do you think people are going to meet each other? So I love the big room planning of SAFE because of this region, because they get to meet everyone. And that's what I vouch about these frameworks or ceremonies, actually. Not that when it's not needed and you're still talking for half an hour and nobody wants to be there. I don't know what sort of ceremony you want to have.
Do you know, just one more example. I remember going to a client site and I didn't realize that people within the own team had no idea who each other were. So we were on site, we're on one level where this particular team was. I said, let's go downstairs to meet these people because they're also on the project. Had no idea. They're in the same building, work at the same company, had never spoken to each other apart from our project. So I was like, hold on. Why is it taking us to come here in person for you to meet someone in the same state and building and company until now?
Has happened so many times with me. You won't trust and sometimes that's the only reason why something is not working in the organization. Because one person from one team is not really talking to the other person from another team, but their delivery touches each other. So their delivery definitely is dependent on each other. Yeah. They can't really work without each other because in general in an organization, one department cannot work without another department or another team. But it's just that for some reason, it is made that way that they can work in silos very easily. I find that fascinating.
So do I.
Yeah, but it happens. It always happens. And I think it brings to all the conversation that we did today, isn't it? Like it's about leadership. It's about cultivating that habit with a budding leader where they're curious, they're consistent, and they're offering clarity and they're seeking clarity. And when they are having all this attitude, by default, you will talk to the other team. It's not possible that you would not talk to the other team. So unless, you're just restricted, like don't talk. And honestly, organizations never see that. That's funny, right? Organizations never see that you can't talk to finance or you can't talk to marketing. They never do that. But it's sort of like an unspoken rule or like an unwritten rule that people just follow it. For what reason? I don't really know that. I understand that we don't want to throw the structure away because the structure is important. Everybody working in their own teams is important. I highly respect that. And I think I need that as well. But at the same time, just having these few, for bi-weekly, monthly, or even if you can't meet monthly, meet quarterly. If you can't meet quarterly, meet, twice a year. Even that makes a difference, because I have a lot of close friends whom I just hardly talk, but they're still close because we just do this touch base, right? And we remember how we feel about each other, and we know who we are. And I think that's what is missing. So
Co-creation.
Collaboration, leadership. Yeah. Transformation ingredients.
Yeah. I wanted to end just on one question. For anyone entering the industry, what would we've talked about core skills and I guess mindsets that you look for in your team, but is there anything particular that you wanted to just impart in terms of getting into the industry where you see people getting into leadership? What would be something you would recommend for them?
I'd say that follow impact path rather than chasing titles. So if you follow your impact path, you will get there. So it doesn't matter if you're fresh out of university or you are looking to getting into leadership. What's the impact that you want to create? Because as a leader, you should have an impact story that you want to create, or why and what do you want to do? So what's the end goal? Mm-hmm. So you get to the C-suite, right? Like, let's just talk about that. What do you want to do? Just be part of the meetings? And then I would say that's not the right intention, even if you get there. And if you're there for 10 years, probably not the right place, but you're there. But I would say that if you have that impact in your mind and you know why you need that and why you need to be there, that will just build a path. So it will just build a path. And sometimes that's why maybe leading people and teams is not what you want to do. And because the impact that you want to create is a beautiful architecture. I meet so many people who want to create a beautiful architecture. So they need to understand every in and out of technology, what's really happening, what's latest, and they need time. So I think time is it's a very limited resource.
Yes.
You really need to use it towards what can create the journey that you want to create. So I would say my one word would be impact. Chase that. And if you chase that, everything else that we talked about tonight would just become easy.
I wanted to end on that question, but now I'm curious.
Okay.
What is your impact story?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Okay. I think this is something that it shifts and changes. Okay. So I would say that the impact that I wanted to create when I was in automation, I wanted to build a software or like a automation project where the efficiency was very high and it was reused. So I actually did a project at the BU level where I was like, this is what I want to do. Because I keep seeing people building the same driver script and the same parts of the frameworks again and again. And I was like, the impact I want to create now is this. And then it's like, I see all these beautiful people and their ways of working is not really very efficient. So the impact I want to create is a very sustainable team, highly efficient. So I built a lot of high-performing teams. So I think I then mastered that art. And I was like, let's move on. And then I'm like, the impact that I want to create now is bringing like the strategy, people, culture, and technology together to really move the needle for the companies, the people in the companies, and also like for external, like the customers. So it's basically my impact story has become a little bit wider. So that's the impact that I want to create. If I want to then make certain decisions and reduce the efficiencies, you should probably know where I want to lead next.
I think you're highly adaptive and your key skill is curiosity.
I would say so.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Look, one more cheers.
Yeah, definitely. I love this as well. Cheers.
Cheers.
And that's it for this episode of Data and Drams. A massive thank you to Soumya for joining me and for sharing your career and leadership insights. If you love this episode, I'd be thrilled if you took a moment to leave a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also connect with me on Instagram and LinkedIn over at Data and Drams for episode updates and my latest whiskey recommendations. Join me next time as we dive into another amazing career journey over a delicious drink. Until then, Slàinte mhath.